After Walter died when Dale was just 13, God provided many mentors who profoundly impacted his life. Dale described a 15-minute conversation with Morris Venden at Laurelwood Academy that completely changed the arc of his life, influencing his call to ministry. His high school roommate and lifelong friend, Gene Nordstrom, has a memory to share about their time together.
Hello, everyone. Bear with me. I had a friend who warned me about these memorials, and that if you find yourself getting choked up or emotions overwhelming you, her speech professor said, just be sure you look out in the audience and imagine that the audience is naked. So if you see me staring at you a little funny through these tear-stained eyes, that's the reason. But it's really nice to be back here. It's been 40 years since I've been at Meadow Glade. My brother was teacher here for 2 years when Vernon Kaiser was the principal, and Vernon was also our algebra and math teacher at Laurelwood. So I was partial delinquent, 14, 15-year-old kid. The parents sent me to Laurelwood. Laurelwood was known as kind of like the SDA reform school. And I was lucky in that Dale asked me 62 years ago, I went and did some math on that, if I would be his roommate our senior year. And it was the most consequential year of my life. I hadn't taken life seriously or my grades or spiritual things seriously, but Dale changed all that. I got my best grades. I had good study habits. I was given opportunities for leadership, and I followed Dale as the student body president, not because of any merit of me. It was because of Dale. Now, I'm glad you mentioned Maury Venden because Maury Venden was instrumental in a lot of things. And one of the things that he was adamant about is that if you're going to get to heaven or want to be a Christian, it's not what you do or what you don't do, it's who you know. And Dale was the person that I needed to know. It was the access point of my life, and I can never really thank him enough. And I told Paul that, oh man, these memorials are hard. But Dale deserved it, and the family deserves to hear all these wonderful attributes that he spent a whole lifetime giving. So I'm going to share a few of them. I used to love when the lights went out at school, and we'd lay in our bunks, and then we would just, talk. And Dale was a better talker than I was, and sometimes I'd have to tell him to shut up while I'm interrupting. But we would sit there and talk about life and about spiritual things. And I told Judy earlier that we actually talked about girlfriends. Not because we had one. It was like we wanted one. And anybody who knows Academy life, girlfriends are like, that's the last thing you can get there. And I have often wondered, I just found out that Judy was married in 66, the same as and Dale was born 3 months before I was, in 43. I mean, it's like we've had a parallel track. But anyway, it's just been so nice to see all the people that knew Dale. I feel a little guilty that I knew him. I had the seniority on this guy. Some of you have. But about Maury Venden, he got into some deep weeds at Laurelwood with his Righteous by Faith. And we didn't realize it at the time, but he wasn't renewed. His pastorship wasn't renewed. And found out much later, in fact, after 50 years, he finally talked about it a little bit, about them moving him down to White Memorial, and he worked with medical students. But I was so nice to hear that he had that same effect on Dale as he did on all of us, because he became one of the most well-known speakers in Week of Prayer and camp meetings all across the country. And in the last few years, he was representing the Voice of Prophecy, and it was really rewarding to see his son gave him a wonderful memorial, and he played a tape of Maury Venden's "Why I Like a Good Funeral." And it was so good because the reason Maury liked a good funeral, and he gave lots of good examples of how Jesus loved funerals. He just kept bringing people back from the dead. So anyway, let me just one of the things Venden stressed that stayed with me my whole life was that when you come up against difficult subjects, and I think he was a good example of this, he would write down on the bulletin board all the things it is, and then we would write down all the things it isn't, whether it was faith, love, Christianity, especially Christianity. That was a real one, really tough one for us, because we kept finding the antonym for it and a synonym, and it didn't quite match. So we found, or he taught us how to find these incongruent doctrinal issues, and it kind of got him in trouble with maybe the powers that be. They were a very strict, Laurelwood was a very strict, behavior-centric school at the time. Righteous by Faith was kind of scared a lot of them, but it stayed us in good stead. So one of the things that I took from those years of Venden's writing on the blackboard and finding out what it is, and I took a close look at Dale's life, and it kept reverberating. This is just, I need to write down all the things that made his life matter. He lived such a purposeful life, meaningful life, and it really mattered. And so I wanted to make a list of the things. What are these things? We all should take advantage of them. So I wrote down, see if it makes sense. We celebrate and grieve for Dale today because he lived a purposeful life, a meaningful life, a life that mattered. It really mattered. How did it matter? What mattered and what didn't? What mattered is not what Dale bought, but what he built, a beautiful family and ministry. Not what he got, but what he gave. Not his success, but his significance. Not what he knew, but how he lived what he knew. Not his competence, but his character. What matters is not how many people he knew, but how many will feel a lasting loss when he is gone. What will matter is not his memories, but the memories that live in those that loved him. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. Dale chose that life. And we as friends, family, and classmates were the beneficiaries. I've always loved this little short poem, and it describes, whenever we say rest in peace, this is the poem that definitively describes it. There is a peace that cometh after sorrow, of hope surrendered, not of hope fulfilled. A peace that looketh not upon tomorrow, but calmly on the tempest that is stilled. A peace that does not live in joy's excesses, nor in the happy life of love secure, but in unfailing strength the heart possesses. From conflicts won while learning to endure. A peace there is in sacrifice secluded, a life fulfilled with love and worry-free. Is not the peace in over-Eden brooded, but the peace that triumphed in Gethsemane. Now that's the peace that Dale is resting in as well. I saw a funny cartoon, a religious cartoon, and it was Joseph of Arimathea went to Pontius Pilate, wanted the body of Jesus to put in his crypt or in his tomb. And Pilate says, I don't get it. You're obviously a member of the Sanhedrin. You've got you're affluent. Why would you want to give this Jesus, this Nazarene, your crypt to your tomb? And Joseph said, well, he's only going to be there for the weekend. So in terms of Dale's timeline, he's not going to be there even that long, because in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we should all try to be there to greet him.
Thank you, Gene.